Once again, folks, this meeting is being recorded. If you don't, and the recording will be placed on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop now. So let me um, share my screen. I hope everybody can see it.
I can, Nabi.
Thank you. And Allah, if you can do me a favor, I can't see the IM window. So if there's any chat question, please feed, if you can feed that to me, that'd be great.
Sure, don't worry.
Okay, doc. So topic of today is Azure Files data protection capabilities. Just quickly, by the way, I will share this slide deck after this call. Just a quick blurb about Azure Files. I mean, this is a file share in the cloud provided as a part of Azure Storage. Right now, it supports SMB. You can create these file shares in Azure. You can create both with standard storage and premium storage, and you can connect these uh, uh, shares uh, in with Azure VMs, Windows, Linux, as well as on-prem VMs like Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So that's what file share does, and it has a capability of syncing on-prem share to the cloud. So if you have on-prem shares and you want to use them in the cloud, you can use Azure File Syncs to do that. So that's a quick blurb about Azure File Shares. Okay, what are some of the data protection capabilities? Because I mean, it's if you are just kind of doing experimentation, yeah, I mean, Azure File Shares, no big deal. I mean, it doesn't have any data protection capabilities. But when we are talking about enterprises, they always look for these features where they can protect this data, secure this data, and if there is some disaster happen, they can basically have the ability to recover and data redundancy option and all that. So we're going to talk about different capabilities which are available. Some are available for some time and they are being enhanced, and some of those have just made available. So one of those is, first of all, is soft delete. So what it allows you to do is just like soft delete happens in blobs in Azure Files, you can set soft delete at the storage level, and then whatever file shares that you create, you can, if you delete those file shares, they will stay there for a certain period of time in a deleted state where you can recover them. Okay, recover those shares. But just keep in mind a few things. This setting is at the system level. So, sorry, a storage account level. So once you make this setting, it will stay on that storage account and it will apply to all shares. And you can change the setting how long these shares will be in deleted states. It's from 1 to 365 days. Once again, that setting will also apply for all the shares that are there in that storage account. Finally, if let's say that you deleted some file shares and you want to recover them, you can go and we will take a look at the demo and you can recover those shares. Uh, One thing in terms of cost to keep in mind, that if the shares are deleted, they're in deleted state, you are still charged for those shares. I mean, that is a bit different with standard versus premium. It's described here. So that's slightly different in how it works in standard versus premium, but just keep that in mind, the cost implications. So that's how the soft delete work. And we will take a look at it once we look at the demo. Second thing is snapshots. So you can create snapshots of your Azure files. This is a manual process. You can go in and you can create snapshot of Azure file shares. They are effective in a sense that, let's say you create a snapshot on a certain time intervals. what will happen is it will only create the next snapshot will only have the changes or whatever has changed so far. Okay, that's the only thing. The rest of the stuff will so only changes happen, or the snapshot will capture only the changed data. So that's good. You can make it work with Azure Backup. So with Azure Backup, what you can do is you can make a backup of these Azure files, and you can create those, manage those snapshots through that. So that's another kind of a powerful feature that is available. Data redundancy and replication option, that's where there's a bit uh, um, of information that you have to be aware of. Keep in mind that you can create premium file shares, but you have to create a Azure Premium Files account. So if you just create an Azure storage account, it is standard file shares. Okay, that's different. So if you want to create premium file shares, you have to create a premium files account. If you are creating a standard Azure account, with standard file, it supports all the methods like, locally redundant, uh, globally redundant, globally zone redundant, all that methods. But if you are creating a premium account, it only supports locally redundant and zone redundant storage. And just to explain, locally redundant is 3 replicas in the same region. Zone redundant is replicas spread across different zones in a same region, while globally redundant means 3 replicas in one region and 3 replicas in another region. I think it's 300 miles apart or 200 miles apart. I don't remember exactly. So that's the difference. And that's, you have to keep that in mind. So how you do replication across regions with premium files. And there are multiple ways you can use a VM, and you can use Azure File Sync. That is one way of doing it. Other way is you can use um, this AZ copy utility, where you can copy data from one region to the other, through a batch process which runs AZ copy at certain intervals. So that is one thing that is not yet available. Auto geo redundancy for premium file shares, that is not yet available. It's available for standard file share, not available for premium. So just keep that in mind, because when we are you know, talking to our customers, or we are the customer and we are like trying to implement it, this is something to keep in mind how this thing will be workable. Finally, access control. So in the beginning, when Azure File Share started, the only way to connect was through their, this shared access keys. That's the only way to do that was. Then um, there was the support for RBAC made available through Azure AD domain services. So you have to have an Azure AD domain services set up, and then you connect your your file share with that, or storage account with that, and that's how you will be able to apply ACLing on that share using Azure AD domain services. But more recently, uh, now we have support for AD based file integration. So basically you are running Windows Server AD on-prem, you have an AD Connect, and then you can use that. The support is there for Azure Files to have, um, applying ACLing based on Windows Server AD. So that's basically, that's another thing that is made available. It's currently in public preview. By the way, we will, in some other session, we will cover this in more detail. This is a very detailed topic is just here. I want to mention that these options are available. You just don't have to stay with just with shared access signature and things like that. You can take advantage of these Azure AD domain services or Windows Server AD to control access to your Azure files. So any questions before we jump on to the demo? Okay. So first of all, this is a Azure storage account. It's a, as you can see, it's a general purpose V2 account. It's standard storage, and I'm just gonna go into file shares. And by the way, you can create any file share. You can go in here and give it a name, and it will create that file share for you. I have two file shares here, and what I'm gonna do is I am just gonna look at this button. Oh, first of all, let me show you one thing here. Soft delete. You can, when you create the file share, if you just keep the default option, it is disabled. But you can turn it, you can enable it, and at that point, it is enabled for all file shares. You can change the state. I think it's 1 to 365 days. Um, So let's keep, I'm gonna keep it for 7. So that's how you can change the time. But once again, this you can do it at the creation time, enable it at the creation time or afterwards. But once again, it applies to all file shares.
Naveed, on the previous screen, there's a question from the chat. Is there a cap on the size of the file share?
Yes, there is. I think it is 5 terabyte, but now they have changed it to 100 terabyte as far as 100 terabyte large file shares. And that's a good question. Actually, there, when you are creating the storage account, and we will take a look at that experience in a second, I'm not sure if you can change it here. Ah, you see that? So if you want large file shares, you have to enable that option. Once you enable that option, you should be able to create large file shares. So if I enable it, and once again, if you are creating a 100 terabyte share, just keep it in mind, it does not support geo-redundant. So if you have a geo-redundant storage, if you create a large, um, then it will not be geo-redundant, your file share. Just keep that in mind. Okay. And once again, this option, you can turn it on at the creation time, or as you can see, after creation, you can turn it on. But once you make it, this upgrade is gonna be permanent. So just keep that in mind. I hope that answered your question. Okie dokie. So let's move on. Oh, so once you have the soft delete on, you will see this checkbox here. And once we turn on that checkbox, I have a file share that is in deleted state. So there are two things I can do. One thing is I can um, undelete that. So I can go to this file share and I can say undelete. And once I do that, this file share will be undeleted. And as you can see, it's back up. Now there's $1 million question. Let's say that you set up soft delete for 100 days and there's a file share that you have deleted, it's still there, you don't need it anymore. How you delete it? So so the way to do it is uh, you will turn off soft delete and then delete that file share permanently and then turn soft delete back on. Okay. There is something you have to keep in mind that while you have turned off soft delete, somebody may have gone and deleted another file share that will be deleted permanently as well. So there is no other way. Either you wait for that period to expire for that share to go away. If you have soft deleted, it's in a share is in the deleted state. The only way so far to delete it is basically turning off soft delete and deleting that share, undeleting it, and then deleting that share permanently, or wait for the time period to expire where that share will go away automatically. Okay, I hope that everybody understands that. Any questions on soft delete? Okay. In terms of snapshot, so let's say if we go here, um, here are the snapshots. I mean, I can start. Today, I think I have snapshots for. See, yes, I think this one. I think I have snapshots. This one. Yeah. So I have two snapshots here. One, as you can see, one is created by Azure Backup. So let's say I'm gonna go into my recovery vault. And give me 1 second. Yes. Yeah. So I go into my recovery vault, and where is that recovery vault? I think it's one of those. So let's find out which one is that. Yes, that's the one. If I go in here and if I want to start a backup, it has where is your workload running? Azure. It's a virtual machine. You see, it's now supports Azure file share as well. So I can pick a file share and I can start a backup of that file share. It will start doing backup daily and I can set the frequency and all that. And if I want to see backup items, it will take a second, but it will show I have a Azure file share backup here. And this is, it will take a second. It will show me what items I have it by, I mean, as a Azure Files backup I have here. So that support is there, so you can uh, either take snapshot or take advantage of this snapshot management by Azure Files. And this is the snapshot that is being created. I can restore it, stop backup, and all that. So that's kind of takes care of all of that backup and snapshots for Azure Files. So that's another way of kind of backing up that data. Because just keep in mind, when we talk about redundancy, I think sometimes people focus too much on redundancy. Oh, I have my data redundant on the other side. Redundancy is not equivalent to backup. Just keep that in mind, because when you are saying my data is geo redundant, let's say you made a change on data on one end, that change, you like it or not, it's going to be replicated on the other end as well. It may be a destructive change, but it will. Uh, and so, I mean, that is like garbage in, garbage out. On the other hand, backup kind of takes a snapshot of your state and time and stores it. So let's say if you deleted some files or modified some files and you want to go back to see what they were in a point in time in the past, you have to have backup there. Okay, so that's I mean, sometimes we like kind of think, okay, Azure geo redundancy is equivalent to backup. It is not. Backup is kind of have a different purpose. So just want to clarify that. Okay, so let's go back to the so we have snapshot. And by the way, you have to create snapshot manually. I mean, you can script that process. That's one thing, but you have to do it. Um, it's a manual process. Um, so in terms of let's talk about in terms of redundancy. So what are the redundant options that are available? So if I create a storage account, let's start with a storage account. I want to show you what different options are available. So if I am creating a storage account, geo redundant, sorry, general purpose. These are, I have all the store options available locally, zone, geo, read, access, geo redundant. But see, if I want to create a, uh, 1 second, hold on a second, storage account. I, let me just change it to EAST2. I think I may have. Oh, premium. So if I want to create a premium account, what options do I have available here? I have block storage, file storage. So let's say if I want to create a file storage. If I want to create a file storage, what redundancy options are available? It's only locally redundant storage. So it does not support zone redundant for this particular region. Okay, so that just keep that in mind. So that's if you are using premium file storage, the only option is locally redundant, or it may be zone redundant where it is available. Okay, so that's the key in terms of replica. But if you are using storage v2, which is standard storage, then you have all these. Okay, sorry, I just used standard. I was picking premium. So all these options are available, as you can see, locally, zone, geo, read access, geo redundant, and I can't. The last one I can't even say it. Read access, geo, zone, redundant storage. So that's that's the options that are made available for you to use. Okay. Any questions so far?
Two questions from the chat here, Naveed. So, how does searching the content? Just a second. How does searching the content of files like docx, a PDF work with file shares?
Oh yeah. So basically, it's a file share. The thing is, um, if you attach a file share on your local file system, you can search it there. But I don't think there is a capability, or I'm not aware of a capability that is available here. So if I am on this file share, Win files, I think you can search file by prefix. That's all you can do. Other than that, I am not aware of any other way of doing it. That's what was the second one?
Is there a lifecycle management for Azure Files? If not, do you know if there is a roadmap for it?
Lifecycle management in a sense like you want to move into archive or
maybe if Srini could come off mute to ask,
okay,
or
please.
please clarify more.
Yeah, Naveed, the same thing. Yeah, we want to move it to different tiers. Yeah, I know that those tiers may not be available for Azure Files, but that's the intent.
Yeah, that's a good question. Not that I am aware of. So that support is there for blob service. You see it right here where you can tier the content. I'm not sure if this is, I mean, at least not from the portal, it's available. Um, maybe it's something that is available through CLI, but I'm not sure. I can get back to you on that. Sorry, don't know the answer.
Thank you.
There's one more, Naveed. So in availability set, creating one resource will have one more resource created to provide node level redundancy. Is that right? And does Azure charge for two resources in the scenario?
Okay, availability set, I think that's a different concept. I mean, for Azure Files, I mean, if you're doing zone redundant, you are not, I mean, there is a little bit extra charge, but it's not, I mean, we're not charging you for the replicas for locally and zone redundant. In terms of availability set, that's a construct that is available, I mean, that is applicable to VMs. And by the way, you have to have a second VM or a third VM in that availability set to meet the availability set requirements. We will not create a VM for you. So yes, you have to pay for it. And if you want availability, you have to create, have additional VMs. So
thanks, David. That's all from the chat for now.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So the last one is basically the ability to have the identity. And in that case, if you go into a file share and you go to access control IAM, yeah, so this, you have to enable identity authentication. This clearly tells you that you have to enable it at the storage account level. So what I have to do is I have to go at the storage account configuration and I have to enable it at this level, and I have to have a Azure AD domain services set up to have this thing provide that access. So let's say if I enable it, I save it, it will take a second because I don't, yeah. So the thing is, I don't have an active 8080 tenant, so that's why this will not work. So I have to have an actual Active Directory tenant that uh, to support it. Otherwise, this setting will not work, and I don't have that tenant set up. So that's why this setting is not taking place. But given that you have an Azure AD domain services account set up, then this setting will take place and you will be able to do ACLing on the file shares. And probably we will cover this topic. This is a much more detailed topic in its end, how you set up identity-based access to file shares, both through Azure AD domain services and Windows Server Active Directory. That's probably we will cover in a later session. So this is kind of um, covering everything that we wanted to cover. So any questions or any other questions that we have on those topics? Okay. It seems like there are no other questions. So
Nothing from the chat.
okay, great. So I'm gonna give everybody there a couple of minutes back. Thank you very much for joining. I hope everybody have a great weekend, and hope to see everyone next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Naveed. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Naveed.
Thank you.
Great Friday, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.